In thermodynamics, in the last session we have discussed about entropy, and we tried to define the concept of entropy in the last session. Now we shall see how we can measure entropy. Well, the measurement of absolute value of entropy is not possible. We can only measure always the change in entropy. So therefore, if you take dq to be the infinitesimal amount of heat taken or rejected at a temperature T, then the change in entropy can be measured as ds is equal to, entropy is denoted by, I told you, as small s. So therefore change in entropy is taken as ds equal to dq by dt, because entropy is found to be the ratio between the quantity of heat absorbed or rejected by the temperature. Therefore, since S equal to Q by T, ds can be dq by T. Let us say when the substance is passing from a state A to a state B, then change of entropy can be taken within that limit by integrating this. How do we do that? So we can make the change of entropy as Sb minus Sa is equal to integral A to B of dq by T. Because the entropy is a property associated with a certain definite state, therefore we can measure it from an arbitrary zero state. We can select any state, say for example state A, represented by a particular value of pressure and volume P and V, as a state of zero entropy. Now the entropy of state B, taking state A as arbitrary zero or arbitrary zero state, can be given as S of B equal to integral B to A to B of dq by dt. So we need to evaluate this integral. Now to evaluate this integral, we select the reversible path. How do we take the reversible path? The reversible path from the entropy diagram, like from D to B. D to B, how do we take it reversible path? Let the substance be passing from D to C, from one adiabatic to the other adiabatic along the isothermal at temperature T2. So therefore the increase in entropy is Q2 by T2. To evaluate the integral for the measurement of entropy of state B, taking state A as arbitrary zero state, we will evaluate this integral by selecting the reversible path from D to B. Let the substances be passing from D to C, from one adiabatic to the other adiabatic along the isothermal at temperature T2. So therefore the increase in entropy is taken as Q2 by T2. Whereas, now in passing the substance from C to B along the adiabatic, the entropy remains constant. So when it is passing like this, it is changing. When it is passing like this, it is remaining constant. Therefore, the total change of entropy in going to state B is to be calculated. Therefore, the total change of entropy in going to state B is what? Is Q2 by T2 only. Now what we will do, again we can pass from D to B like the opposite side. Earlier we have seen D to C and C to B. Now from D to B the passing can be via DA and AB. So we can pass from D to B via DA and AB. Now here in passing through D to A, there is no change in entropy. Whereas the change in entropy can come when you pass from A to B. So D to B passing, earlier we have seen like this. Now we are passing D to B via DA and AB. So passing from D to A, there is no change in entropy. Whereas there is change in entropy from passing A to B. So again this is this adiabatic, therefore it will be Q1 by T1. Now how do we calculate this? As Q1 by T1, because from D to A there is no change. From A to B there is a change, which is nothing but Q1 by T1. Now for a reversible cycle, you can equate these two. Q1 by T1 equal to Q2 by T2. That is for the state B, by taking state A as arbitrary zero state. So SB. This shows that the change of entropy depends on two states. This is what we need to understand in measuring the entropy. Now let us see how, from the background of entropy, how can we deduce the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is a law which is connected with the direction in which any chemical or physical process involving energy change takes place. The consideration of entropy changes in reversible as well as irreversible processes enable us to express the second law of thermodynamics in terms of entropy. For instance, in a reversible process, entropy remains constant, while in irreversible process it increases. This shows that either the entropy increases or remains constant. That is, the entropy of a thermal system in a natural process cannot decrease. Therefore, the second law of thermodynamics can be expressed like this. Something like this. Second law of thermodynamics in terms of entropy can be expressed as a natural process that starts in one equilibrium state and ends in another equilibrium state will go in a direction that causes the entropy of the system plus environment to increase, or ever chemical or physical process in nature takes place in such a manner that the total entropy increases. For that, let us understand like this. Consider S1 and S2 as the entropies of a substance in the initial state A and B. Let A be the initial state, B be the final state. So entropy of a substance at A be taken as S1. Entropy of substance at final state B is taken as S2. Both are measured from an arbitrary zero. Now with this background, the change in entropy can be written as S2 minus S1 is equal to integral A to B of dq by t. Now when the states are expected to be very close to each other, then this relation can be written as small change. So integral S, this is between S2 to S2 minus S1 means nothing but ds only, no? A small change. So this can be written as ds equal to dq by t in case the states are very close to each other. So therefore by cross multiplying you will get dq is equal to t into ds. dq is equal to t into ds. This is the mathematical formulation of second law of thermodynamics. Now based on entropy, we can also show that Clausius and Kelvin statements of second law of thermodynamics are very consistent. In terms of entropy, this definition of second law can be stated. For example, according to Kelvin's statement of second law, we cannot produce continuous mechanical work by extracting heat from a single reservoir, that is single source, without returning any heat to a reservoir at low temperature. That is what is called sink. That means no perfect heat engine is possible. If this were so, the entropy of the source would decrease by Q by T, let us say, where Q is the amount of heat taken from the source and T is the temperature of the source. Because the working substance returns to its initial state after completing the cycle, there is no change in its entropy. Thus, there would be net decrease in the total entropy of the system plus surroundings. This is against the principles. Similarly, according to Clausius' statement of second law, there cannot be any perfect refrigerator. That is, it's not possible for a self-acting machine without any external aid to transfer, let us say, a quantity of heat Q from a cold body at a temperature, let us say T2, to a hot body at a temperature, say T1. If this were so, the entropy of the cold body would decrease by Q by T2, while the hot body would increase by Q by T1. And of course, the entropy of the working substance remaining unchanged. So in this way, there would be a net decrease of Q by T2 minus Q by T1 in the total entropy of the system plus surroundings, because T1 is always greater than T2. Again, this is against the entropy principle. So that's how we can deduce both Kelvin as well as Clausius definitions of or statements of second law of thermodynamics based on entropy. So let us understand entropy and disorder. When we say order, by an orderly state of molecules in a substance mean that at any instant we can be sure in specifying their arrangement within the substance. And by disorderly state we mean randomness, or otherwise what we call as molecular disorganization. For example, in a gaseous state, we cannot specify the arrangement of molecules because they move in a random way. So therefore, gaseous state is considered to be a disorderly state. On the other hand, if you take a liquid state, it is less disorderly state because the molecules do not have much freedom to move as in gaseous state. But on the contrary, if you take the solid state is an orderly state, because here in a solid state the arrangement of molecules can be specified because they are held by intermolecular forces. This shows that when a substance is converted from solid form to gaseous form, the disorder increases. At the same time, we find that in the process of change of state, the entropy increases. So thus, with the disorder, we can say entropy increases. The converse of this also is also true. Like when the substance is converted into water, let us say, and then into ice, the entropy and disorder of the molecules decreases. So therefore, we can say that the entropy of a system is a measure of the degree of disorder prevailing among its molecules. We can justify this with different examples, like two examples we are taking to justify the concept called entropy of a system is a measure of degree of disorder prevailing among its molecules. To explain this disorder state, let us consider first example like free expansion. Consider a gas. Let us say the gas is filled in a vessel A, and that vessel A is connected to another evacuated vessel B with the help of a stopcock. Now assume that the stopcock is suddenly opened. Now what happens when it is opened? The molecules have a spread over the vessel B also. So the distribution of molecules is now in more random fashion as compared to that before expansion. We know that free expansion is an irreversible process. That means in free expansion, therefore, entropy increases. This shows that along with entropy, disorder also increases. Let us take up yet another example called heat conduction to understand disorder. Heat conduction is an irreversible process, and therefore entropy has to increase. Entropy increases. For example, consider two bodies. Let us say they are at temperatures T1 and T2 and they are put in contact. After conduction, they attain a common temperature, let us say T Kelvin. But before conduction, we could easily classify between the molecules of body A and the molecules of body B, because body A is at a temperature of T1 Kelvin while body B is at temperature of T2 Kelvin. That means both the bodies have got different root mean square velocities, RMS speeds. After the conduction, this classification is lost because the molecules of the system are at the same temperature. Therefore, they have the same RMS velocity or RMS speed. So therefore, the statement that one body is at a temperature T1 Kelvin while the other body at T2 Kelvin is more specified that means orderly, than the statement that two bodies are at the same temperature, which is less specified, therefore we can say disorderly. So therefore, in heat conduction, the system has passed to a greater disorderly state. So in this way, along with entropy, disorder also increases. Now let us understand how do you get the entropy of the universe. Earlier we have seen that the entropy of a system remains constant in a reversible cyclic process, but it increases in all irreversible processes. That means there is no change in the entropy of the universe due to reversible process, while there is the entropy of the universe increasing due to irreversible process. Both are there. Because all actual processes are inherently irreversible, therefore the entropy of the universe increases. The principle of degradation of energy, it states that the available energy of the universe is tending towards zero. This is based on the fact that whenever an irreversible process takes place, a certain quantity of energy of the universe is converted from a form in which it was available for work into a form in which it is unavailable for work. Let us understand this particular concept of principle of degradation of energy state by taking the example in the case of a Carnot engine. For example, in a case of a Carnot engine, let us say a quantity Q1 is taken from a hot body at a temperature T1 and a quantity Q2 is given up to a cold body at a temperature T2. That means quantity of heat taken from a hot body is taken as Q1 at a temperature T1. Similarly, the quantity of heat given to the cold body is taken as T2 at temperature T2. Now the difference here, the quantity you are talking about, Q1 minus Q2, it is converted into work, and therefore this is what is called available energy. So therefore available energy Q1 minus Q2 can be represented like this. Q1 minus Q2 is equal to, let us say Q1 you have taken as common. Then Q1 minus Q2 can be written as Q1 into 1 minus Q2 by Q1. Okay? And here we know Q1 by Q2 is nothing but T1 by T2. So because Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2, then automatically Q2 by Q1 will become T2 by T1 only, the reverse. Because Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2, but here in the available energy expression, here in this term you have Q2 by Q1. If Q1 by Q2 is equal to T1 by T2, then naturally Q2 by Q1 will become T2 by T1. That if you substitute here, then the available energy will become what? Available energy will become Q1 into 1 minus Q2 by Q1 can be written as Q1 into 1 minus T1 by T2. So when, okay, this T2 by T1, this gets inverted. So this is how you can show the available energy. Now from this what we can interpret? We can interpret an interesting feature. The lower is the temperature T2 of the cold body, the greater will be the available energy. The lower the temperature T2 of the cold body, the greater will be the available energy. In that situation, let us say if T2 is taken as T0, then automatically available energy we can write as Q1 into 1 minus, for T2 we write T0, it becomes T0 by T1. This is the available energy. Now we shall consider the irreversible conduction of heat from a body at a temperature T1 to another body at a temperature T2. That is, we are considering the irreversible conduction of heat from a body at temperature T1 to another body at temperature T2 such that T1 is always greater than T2. So in that situation, let us say Q is the quantity that is conducted from the body of higher temperature to a body of lower temperature. And let T naught be the lowest available temperature in the system. With these considerations, let us calculate the available energy before transfer as well as after transfer. So the available energy before transfer is Q into 1 minus T naught by T1. Whereas after transfer, the available energy will be Q into 1 minus T naught by T2. Only the temperature varies. Now from these two, we can calculate the loss of available energy as a difference of these two. So therefore, loss of available energy is nothing but the difference between available energies before transfer as well as after transfer. Therefore, loss of available energy is equal to Q into 1 minus T naught by T1 minus Q into 1 minus T naught by T2. Now just put a mathematical manipulation here by taking the Q common out here. Q will be Q into T naught by T2 minus T naught by T1. Now you can take T naught inside. So you can expand this by taking T naught outside. This is T naught into Q by T2 minus Q by T1. Q by T is nothing but entropy value only. Na? So entropy state 1 and entropy state 2 difference, S2 minus S1. You can call it as a ds. So therefore, this Q by 2 minus Q by T1 being the change in entropy, which we denote as ds. So for this, you can write ds. Then available energy, loss of available energy can be represented as T naught ds, where ds is the change in the entropy. So from this equation, we can clearly suggest one interesting factor here. Let's see what it is. So from this equation, that loss of available energy equal to T naught ds, it is clear that the entropy is increasing while the available energy is decreasing. As irreversible processes are continuously going on in the nature, the entropy is increasing while the available energy of the universe is continuously decreasing. Now here we need to understand that there is clear understanding from this equation that the entropy value will be continuously increasing while the available energy is decreasing. In the case of a reversible process, because they are continuously going on in the nature, the entropy is increasing while the available energy of the universe is continuously decreasing. Now here we need to understand the concept of temperature entropy diagram. So there exists a process of plotting a graph, temperature versus entropy. Because this approach always has got great uses. These graphs, which are called TS graphs, temperature is denoted as T, entropy is denoted as S, therefore we can call it as a TS diagram or TS graph, because they are widely used in meteorology department. These TS diagrams are also of great use in predicting the defects in the performance of an engine. TS diagrams are generally used to check the efficiency of a heat engine. Similarly, TS diagrams are helpful in obtaining the work value of a fuel used. So these are some applications of plotting T versus S graphs. Let us understand temperature as well as entropy diagram approach. Let us see. For that, we shall consider a graph plotted in temperature and entropy, what is known as temperature entropy diagram in the case of a Carnot cycle. Let us recollect, in Carnot cycle, we know that the working substance undergoes 4 different operations or 4 changes. One is called isothermal expansion, let us say at the temperature T1 of the source. Second one is adiabatic expansion, where the temperature falls from T1 to T2, that is the temperature of the sink. Third one is isothermal compression, at a temperature T2 of the sink, and the fourth one is the adiabatic compression such that the temperature rises from T2 to T1, that is the initial temperature of the working substance. So these operations we can show them on the PV diagram, and then based on that we will go for corresponding TS diagram. So let us show this Carnot cycle with the familiar PV diagram of the Carnot cycle as schematically like this. This is a familiar cycle for us. Now this is the isothermal expansion curve AB. This is the adiabatic expansion curve BC. This is the isothermal compression curve CD. This is adiabatic compression curve DA. Now let us represent the same in the form of corresponding TS diagram like this. If this is between pressure and volume, this is between temperature and entropy, something like this. Okay? Let us understand this in a schematic way. Now if you see here, we know that the entropy changes linearly in an isothermal process, while it remains constant in adiabatic process. Now here if you see, during the isothermal expansion, AB curve, now you can call them as ABCD, no problem. You can rename them as ABCD. Now if you see here, during the isothermal expansion, AB is at constant temperature T1. The entropy of working substance increases from S1 to S2. Let us take S1 and S2 be the entropies at A and B respectively. So therefore, during the isothermal expansion AB at constant temperature T1, the entropy of the working substance increases from S1 to S2. During the adiabatic expansion, that is BC, there is no change in the entropy, whereas the temperature falls from T1 to T2. So therefore, during isothermal compression CD at temperature T2, the entropy decreases from S1 to S2 to S1. Finally, during adiabatic compression DA, the entropy remains again constant while the temperature rises from T2 to T1. So in this way, the TS diagram is a rectangle. The area of the cycle Ts gives the available thermal energy for useful work in a reversible process. For that, we will consider S1 and S2 to be the entropies at A and B. So in isothermal change, AB, the entropy changes from S1 to S2. Therefore, increase in entropy is taken as S2 minus S1. With that background, we shall arrive at the available energy. So we are assuming that Q1 is the amount of heat absorbed by the working substance in isothermal expansion AB, and Q2 is the heat rejected in isothermal compression CD. Then Q1 will be T1 into S2 minus S1, because dQ equal to TdS, na? That is the equation we got. Because dQ equal to TdS, so we can calculate Q1 is equal to T1 into S2 minus S1. If you see this diagram, S2 minus S1, T2, what is T1 into S2 minus S1 means? In the diagram it is AF into AB. AF into AB. Therefore, you can write it as AF into AB. That means that is nothing but equivalent to the area ABEF. That is equal to the area ABEF. That is what it is equal to. Let it be equation 1. Moreover, similarly, if you calculate Q2, Q2 will be T2 into S2 minus S1. T2 into S2 minus S1 means simply DF into DC. DF into DC. That means this rectangle. So isothermal compression we are talking about. So therefore, that will be nothing but dF into dC. That is nothing but area dCEF. That is area dCEF. Let it be equation 2. So you got two equations for Q1 and Q2. Now from this you can calculate the available energy cycle converted into useful work as the difference of Q1 and Q2. So therefore if you look at the available energy cycle, energy per cycle converted into useful work as Q1 difference Q2, Q1 minus Q2. That means area ABEF minus area DCEF. Area ABEF minus area DCEF. Area ABEF minus area DCEF means this area only, na? So the resultant will be area ABEF minus area DCEF means this rectangle minus this rectangle means this is only what we are getting. So therefore the resultant will be the area described by ABCD only. So therefore Q1 minus Q2 is equal to area ABEF minus area DCEF is nothing but area ABCD. Therefore, we can, from this diagram, we can conclude that the area of the cycle on TS diagram gives the available thermal energy that can be converted into useful work. That is the advantage of TS diagram. And of course, we can calculate the efficiency by using this formula, something like this. How do we calculate the efficiency? We know the efficiency eta is equal to Q1 minus Q2 by Q1 only. What is Q1 minus Q2? Q1 minus Q2 is nothing but the area ABCD only. What is Q1? Q1 is nothing but the area DCEF. Therefore, eta equal to Q1 minus Q2 by Q1, which is nothing but area ABCD by area EBF. What is the area of ABCD from this? If you see the diagram, area ABCD is nothing but AB into AD only. Similarly, if you look at the other area ABEF, other area ABEF means AB into AF. So therefore, area ABCD by area EBF income AB into AD by AB into AF. That is nothing but cross multiply. This you can strike it off. This will be AD by AF. What is AD by AF? T1 minus T2 by T1. Therefore, this ratio AD by AF on the TS diagram always gives you the efficiency. So this is what we need to know about TS diagrams. As I told you earlier, TS diagrams are very much helpful in meteorology department. They are of great use in predicting the defects in performance of an engine. TS diagrams help us to check the efficiency of the heat engine, and also TS diagrams help us to obtain work value of the fuel used. So with the isothermals, we can calculate the slope, and from there we can calculate the values of isochoric using isochoric